Welcome to Diaspora, the podcast that explores African people and culture. Make sure to like and subscribe so you never miss an episode. Today, Dr. Mary Ngueso is joined by Professor Joseph Udo Effiong as they discuss Pan Africanism and how it shapes Africans' identities and culture.
So welcome to Diaspora Pan African Center. And today we have a renowned scholar and a leader in Pan Africanism. And we'll be talking about Pan Africanism and why it matters to people of African descent. And today we'll be interviewing Dr. Joseph Udo Effiong. Dr. Effiong is the president and chair of the Executive Council of the Pan-African Dialogue Institute that is based in Nigeria. He is also the director of the Center for Deep Dialogue and Critical Thinking and the associate professor in the Department of Religious and Cultural Studies, University of Uyo, Nigeria. Dr. Udo is a consultant and associate of the Dialogue Institute at Temple University in Philadelphia, USA, and is also an international dialogue fellow of the KAICIID in Lisbon, Portugal. So we'll be talking to him to give us some insights about what Pan-Africanism is all about. As you know, this is a topic that not many people understand, and we're trying to shed some light on that. So welcome, Dr. Effiong.
Thank you very much, my sister.
Oh, good. So why don't you just start by just telling us what this Pan-Africanism is all about? What is it?
From my viewpoint,
yes.
Many people regard or even describe Pan-Africanism as a movement that unites, people of African descent worldwide. And of course, they are correct. But you see, when you talk about Pan-Africanism and unity, the whole idea of unity has a history behind it. The early leaders of Pan-Africanism, the likes of Marcus Garvey, Du Bois, Kwame Nkrumah, and so on and so forth, wanted African people everywhere in the world to be united. Because in unity, they will be strong. They will be stronger together. They needed them to be stronger, to be strong enough to resist, in those days, enslavement of African people, to resist racial discrimination, to resist, maybe we could call ideological supremacy of some people, people who thought that, ridiculously thought that they are better than African people on account of their colors, They wanted African people everywhere to be united in order to be stronger together to resist colonialism, and political domination of African people. And of course, to also resist economic exploitation. Mm-hmm. So for me, I would think that maybe we can use three words, simple words to describe Pan-Africanism. For me, Pan-Africanism is a response. Mm-hmm. It is a struggle. Mm-hmm. And it is a celebration. That's the way I will look at Pan-Africanism. It is a response to the bad situation. It's a kind of strategic response, a conscious response to the kind of situation that you find yourself in Africa. I can tell you there is underdevelopment in Africa. And Pan-Africanism is a response to that. We want to better the lot of the continent and people and this continent. It is a response to the continued, exploitation of the natural resources of Africa, and the indignities, if you like, the indignities that people of African descent, face on a daily basis. So it's a response to resist these things, okay? And then Pan-Africanism also is a struggle. Struggle for what? We need to struggle for the development of the continents, of our communities, to reclaim our cultural heritage, to reclaim, the stolen artifact, if you like. We're even talking about this matter at the moment that there is a call, in fact, a call for the reparation of the African. So it's a struggle to get justice, social justice for Africans. And lastly, it is not only, a response or a reaction. Pan-Africanism for me is not only a struggle. Pan-Africanism for me is a celebration of the scientific facts that Africa is the cradle of humanity. It's a celebration of that fact, a celebration of our rich cultural heritage. Yes. It is the celebration of who we are, our natural and human endowments. It's a celebration of the Africanness. That's, from my viewpoint, that's how I see this.
You mentioned a lot of things that are very, very important for people to understand that Pan-African is much, much more than just maybe even resistance. I like when you ended by saying it's a celebration. A celebration of the African cultural heritage. It's a celebration of our humanity. Essentially, Pan-Africanism is an affirmation of the humanity of African people and their contribution to the world's success. I mean, Africans have contributed a lot. It's the cradle of human life. And so I appreciate you really mentioning the various things that Pan-Africanism is all about. So looking at your response, I think it's about the ideology of affirming humanity and social justice. But it's also a movement which was started by certain individuals to affirm that, right? Yeah, so it is, thank you so much for elaborating on that, because most people, when they hear the word Pan-Africanism, sometimes they only think about the resistance. And of course, there are certain negative connotations associated with it. Very few people realize it's about affirming your own humanity, your own culture, your knowledge, and many other things that Africans offer the world. So I really appreciate you elaborating on that. So my other question is, why do you think Pan-Africanism matters today?
Wonderful question. Look, even if all African, people everywhere in the world had realized the importance of unity, even if Africans had realized that importance of unity and had come together, Pan-Africanism will still be necessary today. Even if, the colonization or exploitation of the African people's natural resources, or even if racial discrimination had stopped, Pan-Africanism will still be important today. Even if, the whole issue of, indignities, and again, cultural alienation, if you like, alienation of the African people, had stopped, Pan-Africanism will still be relevant today. And why do I say this? I say this because, like I ended and which you collaborated, Pan-Africanism is not all about resistance. It's all about the negative things, associated with it in the past. People talk, yeah, Pan-Africanism is socialism and all kinds of things, and branding people who do Pan-Africanism as if they are always like radicals or whatever. No, 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 no. Pan-Africanism is more than that. It is a celebration of our cultural identity. It is celebrating who we are as a people, with the rich cultural heritage. My sister, I tell you that it looks to me as if Africa, African culture is the melting pot of cultures in the whole of in the whole of the world, in the global, world. Mm-hmm. African culture seems to be the in thing. People appreciate African culture. People appreciate and celebrate that. We need to celebrate that as Pan-Africanists, so we celebrate that. And so for me, the relevance of Pan-Africanism today is much more than it was even in previous times. So Pan-Africanism is about who you are as an African.
So essentially, it's about celebrating the culture that has influenced the world. We have a diaspora Pan-African Center. Essentially, is about celebrating people of African descent wherever they are, and wherever these people live, they live with unique culture that kind of connects them back to the continent. So the younger generations, children who are growing up, some of them who may not even understand their own roots. And so Pan-Africanism, I see it as a way in which the younger generation get to learn how connected they are to this specific culture that seems different from probably wherever it is they live. And so it is an ongoing thing. It's not like a movement that started in the past and should stay in the past. It's a movement that continues to this day, because if it is about social justice, we still have a lot of injustices in the world today. And so maybe Pan-Africanism is still relevant in that sense, because at the core of Pan-Africanism is Ubuntu, the celebration of that humanity and the affirmation of all human beings as equal beings. And if it is about that, then I think it continues to be relevant, because people still struggle with these issues. In Nigeria, in Kenya, in the Congo, we know there's a situation going on in the Congo right now that is really sad to talk about. I mean, we have issues in other countries on the continent as well. And so maybe speaking to those issues that are happening around the world right now can also be linked Pan-Africanism to those situations that we are facing, right?
I think you are absolutely correct, because for us, for me particularly, I believe that Pan-Africanism has to be value-based and value-driven. What kind of values are embedded in Pan-Africanism? I mean, the whole issue of unity, of collaboration, of self-determination, of social justice, and so on. These are the values of Ubuntu, of solidarity with one another. I mean, these are, for me, universal, values, ethics that unite human beings. And that is the reason why I'm really, really proud that I am an African, because a true African, and indeed true Pan-Africanist, will appreciate the fact that he is actually the cradle of humanity, and he will understand what humanity is all about. I mean, I look to Africa to teach me what it means to be human, and no other place and no other continent. I look to Africa to teach me what it means to be in solidarity with people who are in trouble, who are who are experiencing, different situations in their lives and all that, to be in solidarity with them, to appreciate what they are going through, and if possible, to lend a helping hand. So it is, for me, Pan-Africanism today is value-based and values that unite people.
Yeah, and I'm really glad you mentioned that idea of value base upon which Pan-Africanism is essentially based, given that these commonalities, this community relationship that we see in Pan-Africanism draws from the African concept of the African worldview that is holistic, where we are so much interdependent, interrelated to each other. And thus that communal value is essentially the central aspect that we find in Ubuntu, that you have to treat another human being like yourself. You have to love your neighbor because your neighbor is like you. And so being able to treat each other as equals, I think, is the value that is expressed in Pan-Africanism. And for that reason, I think you kind of summarize why Pan-Africanism is relevant today. Because it's about the values that we embrace as African people that continues to unite us as people of the same continent, as people of the same humanity, and the fact that we need to respect that humanity. And we hope that our neighbors, whether they are Africans or not, can recognize that humanity and respect it as well. Okay, good. So I'm going to ask you one last question.
Thank you.
The last question I have is about the institute that you lead, the Pan-African Dialogue Institute that you had in Nigeria. And I would like for you to elaborate a little bit about the mission of this institute so people can know about it. And of course, the two of us collaborate, the two institutes collaborate. So talk a little bit about your institute so that people can learn a little bit about why they should become members, why they should join, and why they should be part of that.
Thank you. Our institute is called the Pan African Dialogue Institute, and it's essentially a think tank bringing together African academics, African civil society professionals, I mean in all fields of life, bring together African students, African grassroots leaders and organizers from every part of the continent and even beyond the continent, in the diaspora as well, bring them together. And standing on three important pillars of foundations, if you like, of education, of policy, and of projects. Education. We are trying to intervene in a sustainable way, education for the decolonization of the mind, because we believe that without decolonizing our minds, we will still be doing things as if by the dictates, the knowledge driven by the knowledge systems of our colonizers. And that is not good enough. We know already that we've been torn apart. Our souls have been torn apart because we are many people in Africa not too sure what it means to be African. And they still want to be Western in their lifestyle and so on and so forth. And so they're struggling. They are neither American or European, nor even African. And so it is important that we embark on a sustained educational enterprise for the decolonization of the mind first, because from the mind, every other thing will follow. I mean, we just want to be authentic ourselves. We want to be who we are, without any apology. And that has to begin from the mind, because education in Africa, we have discovered that many people who are Africans do not know Africa themselves.
That's
And
correct.
so it is important that we embark on this educational enterprise in order to help ourselves, educate ourselves about Africa, about African culture, about African cultural heritage, about who we are, our cultural identity, our relationship with the other parts of the world, and so on and so forth. We need to do this, and that is what the mission of our institute. The other one is that of policy engagement. Policy engagement is important because, many developmental efforts are driven by policies. I mean, we want to examine the kinds of policies that are out there adopted by communities, government, national governments, communities, and so on, to find out whether they are authentically African in nature. And we would like to analyze these things, like to, influence policies, and so that the things that our people are doing will be true to who we are, true to our context, true to our culture. Otherwise, it will not be sustainable. And that is the reason why we engage, in this policy analysis, policy advocacies, in order to advise government, advise, decision makers, so that we can do things that will be sustainable and authentic. And the last one is the last mission, a piece of our mission is that of project implementation. We want to, conduct needs assessment of our African communities, African context, and find out that by the time we do this, you discover that there are thousands and thousands, if not millions, of communities, African communities, who are not represented politically. And because of lack of representation, they do not have, these projects in their domains, in their communities that will better their lots. And so, must everybody be in government before they can attract, see roads or see hospital, have good hospital, or have electricity, and so on and so forth. And so we, along with our partners, want to, intervene and relate with these people, and then carry out projects that will enhance their living conditions. And that is the reason why our Pan Africanism is not just about theory. It is backed with, practical. We would like to be relevant. We want to see people embrace Pan-Africanism because Pan-Africanism has touched their lives. So that's essentially our mission.
Great. And I really appreciate you elaborating the different aspects of the mission. The one last thing I may ask you to say something about is, if someone wanted to join your institute, what should they do? If anyone wanted to contribute to your institute, how do they do that? Can you briefly just talk about that?
Thank you very much. We have a website that we would like our prospective members, African, those in the diaspora, those on the continent of Africa, to jump in, partner with us, join us to engage. We have 10 commissions that we, engage the continent, we engage with ourselves. These are the work groups that you certainly will find a space in this institute to work. And on our website, there is a page on membership. So as you click on that membership, it will take you to a form that you can fill that form, and it will come to us. We will welcome you. We will celebrate you. Because you see, our approach to Pan-Africanism is driven by dialogue. It's driven by collaboration. We in dialogue, one of the mantras of dialogue is that no one person knows everything about anything. And so we collaborate, we dialogue together, we collaborate, we partner to make sure that our continent is better for it. No one can do it alone. And so you are welcome. Please join us using that website. And again, too, if you want to partner, want to support us, you will also see a donate button on the website, which you can support us. As a matter of fact, we need that support in order to intervene in those 3 areas which I outlined earlier. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing that, because it's important that people know that they can help in any way they want.
Yes.
Whichever amount you want to send is going to be helpful in trying to sustain this institute and the activities that TPAD is engaged in. And so I want to really thank you so much for taking your time to talk to us about Pan-Africanism and to share about the mission of your institute. And I probably will invite you again so that you can speak on other areas of what your institute is doing.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right. Okay, you have a good one, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. Thank you. All the best. All the best. Thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome.